On January 31, 2026, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the Trump-era tariffs, sending shockwaves through global markets. The 6-3 ruling declared the broad use of Section 232 and 301 tariffs unconstitutional, dismantling a core part of the America First agenda. Instantly, financial markets surged. Dow Jones up 800 points, global futures soared. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, and Chinese goods vanished overnight, forcing a dramatic reset of global supply chains. This wasn't a minor tweak, it was a fundamental rewrite of international commerce. The tariffs, meant to protect U.S. industries, had sparked global retaliation and raised costs for businesses and consumers. Today's decision ends that era and forces a reckoning with its consequences. For consumers, it could mean lower prices. For manufacturers, new opportunities and challenges. Politically, it's a major check on presidential power in trade. The world is watching as the U.S. and its partners navigate this new landscape. The impact is immediate, but the full consequences are just beginning to unfold. The rules of global trade have changed in an instant. To grasp today's ruling, we must revisit its origins. The Trump tariffs, launched between 2018 and 2020, relied on Section 232 for national security and Section 301 for unfair trade practices. Steel and aluminum faced 25% and 10% tariffs, even from close allies. Section 301 targeted over $350 billion in Chinese goods, citing intellectual property theft. Retaliation was swift. China hit U.S. agriculture. The EU targeted iconic American products. Businesses caught in the crossfire faced higher costs and uncertainty. While some U.S. metal producers benefited, most manufacturers and consumers paid the price. The tariffs built a wall around the U.S. economy, but results were mixed and hotly debated. The trade war failed to force major changes in China's policies. Instead, it raised prices and strained global relationships. The costs often outweighed the benefits. Today's Supreme Court decision brings this controversial chapter to a close. The debate over protectionism versus free trade is far from over. Legal challenges to the tariffs began almost immediately after their imposition. Importers and industry groups argued the administration overstepped its authority, especially in expanding Section 301 tariffs. Lawsuits also targeted the broad use of national security under Section 232, questioning its legitimacy. Lower courts issued conflicting rulings, fueling years of uncertainty. In 2024, a key appellate decision found the executive branch exceeded its authority under both statutes. The court emphasized that presidential power in trade is not unlimited. This set the stage for a Supreme Court showdown. The government argued for broad executive discretion in foreign policy and national security. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, recognizing its constitutional significance. The stakes, the balance of power between Congress and the president in international trade. The case was about far more than steel or China. It was about the limits of executive authority. The outcome would reshape the future of U.S. trade policy. The Supreme Court's 6-3 decision, authored by Chief Justice Roberts, focused on the non-delegation doctrine. Congress, the court ruled, cannot hand the president a blank check on trade policy. The majority found the statutes lacked clear limits, especially in defining national security. Economic rationale alone wasn't enough to justify sweeping tariffs. The court also ruled the administration's expansion of Section 301 tariffs overreached its mandate. The dissent warned the decision weakens presidential flexibility in foreign policy. Effective immediately, the tariffs are invalidated. Importers no longer pay the duties, and companies may seek refunds for billions paid since 2018. The legal and logistical fallout will be complex. The message is clear. The era of unchecked executive tariffs is over. The trade wall has come down. Wall Street reacted instantly. Import-dependent companies soared, while U.S. steel and aluminum stocks dipped. The dollar weakened slightly as markets anticipated a surge in imports. The message, the trade war era is over, and freer trade has begun. The White House pledged to respect the ruling and work with Congress and global partners. Pro-trade lawmakers celebrated. Economic nationalists decried judicial activism. International leaders welcomed the decision, seeing it as a chance to reset strained relations. The EU, China, Canada, and Mexico all expressed relief and optimism. Yet, caution remains. Supply chains have shifted, and some changes may be permanent. Foreign governments are watching for new U.S. trade policies. The tariffs are gone, but global competition and strategic tensions persist. The world is hopeful, but uncertainty lingers. For American families, the most direct impact will be at the cash register. Tariffs acted as a tax, raising prices on everything from appliances to backpacks. With tariffs gone, import costs will fall, and prices should stabilize or drop in coming months. Companies relying on imported materials, automakers, tech firms, retailers, will see lower costs and improved competitiveness. Domestic steel and aluminum producers, once shielded, now face renewed global competition. Some jobs and wages in those sectors may be at risk. Businesses that restructured supply chains to avoid tariffs must now reconsider their strategies. Should they return to China or stick with new partners in Vietnam, Mexico, or India? The end of tariffs removes a major cost, but adds new strategic uncertainty. Every multinational must now reevaluate its global footprint. The landscape is shifting, opportunity for some, challenge for others, the only certainty change. The Supreme Court's decision reshapes international diplomacy as much as economics. Trump-era tariffs strained relations with allies and fueled mistrust. Today's ruling removes a major point of friction, opening the door to renewed cooperation. U.S.-China relations remain tense, but the blunt tool of tariffs is gone. Core disputes, intellectual property, market access, persist, but new negotiation avenues must be found. The decision signals that American institutions can check executive overreach, boosting U.S. credibility. It's a reminder. The U.S. is governed by laws, not by any single administration. The ruling could reinvigorate the World Trade Organization and multilateral trade efforts. With broad tariffs off the table, the U.S. may return to global institutions to resolve disputes. Renewed American leadership could stabilize global trade. The end of the tariff wall may help rebuild the rules-based order. The world is watching for a new era of cooperation. The future of global trade is being rewritten. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading trade law scholar, calls this the most significant judicial intervention in U.S. trade policy in a century. The court didn't strike down trade laws, but reined in their broad interpretation. The key: Congress must provide clear guidelines when delegating trade authority. Future presidents will face stricter limits. National security tariffs must be tightly justified, and Section 301 actions must be targeted. The era of broad, undeclared trade wars is over. This ruling reasserts congressional authority over trade, forcing the White House to work more closely with lawmakers. Expect more bipartisan, durable trade policies ahead. The decision also opens the door to massive refund claims from companies that paid tariffs. The government will likely fight these claims, leading to years of litigation. The financial implications are huge for both the government and private sector. The legal battle over the tariff era isn't over, it's just entering a new phase. The precedent set today will shape U.S. trade law for decades. The balance of power in trade has shifted. The Supreme Court's decision closes a turbulent chapter, but opens a new one for U.S. economic leadership. The world has changed. Supply chains are different, and the debate over trade and security is front and center. The ruling forces the U.S. to find new strategies for global competition. Industries once protected must now adapt. Policymakers must support affected workers and rebuild global partnerships. This is a chance for renewed diplomacy and smarter trade agreements. America must balance open markets with support for its workforce and critical industries. The challenge: embrace competition, invest in workers, and ensure the benefits of trade are widely shared. This is more than a legal decision. It's an inflection point for U.S. economic leadership. Will the U.S. turn inward or re-engage globally with a new vision? The choice will shape not just America, but the world's prosperity. The gavel has fallen. Now the real work begins. What do you think? Join the conversation and share your perspective on this historic day. The future of global trade starts now.